shit after the show. All right, good morning, everybody. We are live. I see Fish and Golf has first blood. Be controversials with us now. B is already complaining that we're late. You can tell he's Air Force. So, and then I've got Mario with you, and we were just giving each other a little bit of a hard time because we were both running behind this morning. And if I'm honest, part of it was because for the thumbnail this morning, I wanted to have Donald Trump in the shot with his arm around the alligator, pointing at Alligator Alcatraz, but it just weren't in the cards, and I had to give up. Yep. So, Alligator Alcatraz. This is a little south of you, isn't it, Mario?
Yeah. This is actually, I didn't look up exactly where it is, but if it's going to be south of Orlando. It's going to be near the Okeechobee swamp area. So, yeah, in the deepest, swampiest parts of Florida. I heard they're already done with it because it was so easy, because there's no need for any type of physical security because nature already provided it.
Well, it's not just that they're not actually building a new facility, right? That's kind of a misnomer. It's being, people are talking about it like they're spending a fortune on building this big complex new facility. They're taking a decommissioned old airport and converting it. So, yeah, I'm gonna try to find it on Google Earth. I don't know. Stop. Go away.
Would you like me to use my internets as well?
There's something. Okay, there we go.
Be Controversial says, do you remember when Trump was asked about adding alligators to the border? I do. I do remember I remember the memes in 2015 where, people were speculating what the wall would be. Okay, it'd be like a wall.
Yeah, and you know what it should have been? It should have been an alligator moat, and we should have alligators with freaking laser guns on their heads.
Well, there was a moat with alligators, and if you got through that, then it was basically a canal filled with lava. All right, with sentry guns. Okay, something to that effect. And then if we managed to get across the wall, there was like ejector seat. Okay, traps that would launch you back. Okay, it was a fun time. Oh yeah, that's right in the heart of the national park of the swamps.
Yeah, and it's right smack in the middle of the state between the two beaches, and there's just nothing here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they since the CIA stopped importing cocaine, that airport hasn't got a lot of use. So, yeah, might as well use it for something.
Yeah, I mean, so the Sergeant Major says the border should have signs that say minefield. Yeah, that's something I've talked about on the show many times before. We can solve the border crisis with a bunch of picket signs that just say, warning, peligroso, minefield, right? Yes. And then just once a month or once a quarter or so, you take a goat and you walk him out there. You just cut a goat loose out there and blow it up.
Literal.
You don't have to. Right, exactly. You don't have to actually put mines out there. You blow up a goat every now and then, right? And the signs will do the rest of the work. You save a fortune on explosives.
That's right. Every month, a goat has to die for our collective immigration sins since 1965. It's very telling.
Hey, I'm an equal opportunity guy. We can buy the goats from Mexico.
Yeah. Why are there more people watching right now than were at the Saturday special? Doesn't make any sense to me.
Because freeloaders.
They keep piling in. They keep piling in one after the other. 21, 20.
Oh, and I'm glad you asked that question because, hey guys, I need you to make comments. I need you to chat. So until now, this month they added a new requirement to us for the for what we have to manage in the salt mines, say in the Rumble program. So previously it was 30 hours, and it started off as 30 hours of live streaming with 5 hours of behind the paywall exclusive content. Now we also have to get at least 200 hours of watch time. So, 30 hours, that's on us. We have to do the 30 hours. 5 of those have to be, only for the paid guys. 200 hours of watch time, that's on you guys. Y'all got to watch enough to get us over that line. And we haven't had any problem making that number so far. Now, and this one's scary, Mario. I don't know if we'll be able to make it. We need 20 people to make comments in the live chat every month.
Yeah, I think we got that.
So,
Cyber,
you need
David
to get your shit
Cyber
together
alone.
and get over to Rumble.
David Cyber alone could handle the 20, yeah, for better
No,
or
it
worse.
has it not 20 chats, not 20 comments.
No, 20 people. Unique identities.
20 unique people.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right.
Right. And I mean, we're halfway there this morning already. So, and Cameron, you need to get over on Rumble if for no other reason than if you're watching, if you're listening. I know you're listening to us while you're working. You can do that easier on Rumble. You don't have to pay for the Rumble app to be able to close the app, put your phone in your pocket, and listen to us in your earbuds.
Yeah, he really is. If you look at the comments, you've got Cameron Anderson, a singular red stain in a sea of green. Okay.
Well, and Fish and Golf is still there. Fish, we need you over on Rumble, baby. You got to get over to Rumble, baby.
Okay, Cam won't do it because you asked him to. Okay, he won't be pressured. Okay, you know that. if you want Cam to do something, tell him not to do it. Okay, that basically that's where we fucked up. That's why we lost his friendship. We should have told him not to do it. Okay, and then he would have done it immediately. So simple. What were we thinking?
Liberty Girl asks, do non-live views count? They do count toward the 200 view hours, the 200 watch hours. They do not count toward the live chat. Chat like Mario and Seaver after a bottle of Lenny.
Yeah, I know. In case you were, I guess we're tacoing it up on Tuesday here, so I might as well. Yeah, the reason I wasn't on yesterday is because a friend, Dave Cyber, who is infamous in the chat during the deep dives on Saturday, right? I got a bottle of Linea, or however it's pronounced. It's a botanical liquor that's made in Norway. All right, a very unique flavor, kind of like a subtle elderflower touch. Anyway, unbeknownst to me, when I bought it, I had signed up like a death pact with Cyber, where I had to drink the entire bottle in one night, just to experience the same thing he did the previous night, or on the chat, when he was absolutely belligerent and libeling people. Okay, the experience went okay, but needless to say, I did not wake up for yesterday morning show. So, my apologies to you viewers. All right. Now, alligators in a swamp. Okay. So, alligators in a swamp and boa constrictors and all the exotic pets that people in Miami bought that they realized that were wild animals and they couldn't take care of, so they just callously dumped them in the swamp. So it's full of unknown critters. Okay, it's like South Florida is becoming very much like Australia, where literally everything is trying to kill you. All right, because people exercise no self-control and no ecological consideration whatsoever when it comes to handling of exotic pets. All right, it's pretty wild. It really is.
It's funny you should say that. I was watching Timcast this morning on this topic, and they made that exact joke. It was the redheaded libertarian who was a Floridian, and she said, "Oh yeah, we're basically the Australia of America. We have all the drugs, the crime, and the crazy wild animals and the criminals. We ought to just build a border. We ought to just build a wall across the border of Georgia and Florida and send all the, just make this our prison colony. Which is especially funny since Georgia was founded originally as a prison colony. That's why there's so many guys here that look like me."
we're speaking of which, were your ancestors like? Were they prisoners? Can you trace it back to the beginning to when they first
No.
arrived in
My
Georgia?
ancestors, we've been war fighting since we got here. I mean, it's just blood on the battlefield is basically in our family crest. Craig on Tuick, the Boar Rock, all the way back to Hrothgar the Unmanageable.
Gotcha. I have. I look at most of my friends. I'm
Uncle Steve says no. Australia doesn't have guns.
That's true. That's true. Florida does have plenty of guns. Not as good on Second Amendment as other states, surprisingly, but
they're not. They're getting better.
It's
getting better. There's a 2A auditor, the armed fisherman. The law in Florida says you can carry open. Basically, you have your Second Amendment rights if you're hunting, camping, or fishing. So what he does is he goes to places where he'll park, at a beach parking lot and pick a pier that you can fish on that's like a mile or two away from the parking lot where he's parking. And he'll get out with his tackle box and his fishing rod, and he'll wear a sidearm, and he'll wear a rifle like an AR, and walk along the beach in public to the pier where he's going fishing. And he's won a bunch of lawsuits, having gotten arrested for being illegally armed, and then gets to the courtroom. Your Honor, I was fishing. Here's the law. It says I can carry my firearm when I'm fishing for self-defense. And the reason I bring that up is how psychotic is it in America, and especially in the South, in a state like Florida, where you have alligators and the like, that the law prevents you from carrying a firearm generally. Again, they're getting better. Florida's not yet
two things.
A constitutional carry state, but they have made some big moves in that direction lately. But y'all, you hear, and I stay with me just a second here, Mario. One of the things that always bothers me about the anti-2A crowd is you'll notice those guys by a wide margin live in the cities and the suburbs. They're like, what? Well, you can't possibly need a great big old revolver or 30 rounds. I'm like, have you heard of wild animals? Like, home defense. Yeah, I want to be able to kill a bad guy if he breaks in my house and means to do me harm. But, I also want to kill the things that try to eat my chickens. Right? Or, the occasional, I don't know, diamondback rattlesnake that might try to murder one of my children. Yeah, we need guns.
Or something real simple like invasive frog species, okay? There's an invasive frog from South America that basically has run buck. They're called like buffa frogs or whatever, all right? They're big-ass frogs that literally eat everything the size of a walnut, all right, or smaller, in the state of Florida. And yes, you can just kill them on sight. My uncle walks around the yard, okay, at all times with like a 22, suppressed 22 loaded with a like snake shot, and just greases them, all right? It's great. It's fun activity, okay? But as for needing something, need was never a prerequisite for liberty, okay? So don't tell me what I need and what I don't need in a firearm. So I'm not going to listen. Now,
Danny points out we also have bears, and Sergeant Major points out frogs are delicious. And Mario, I know you remember this from the Hanguk Hakyo. Y'all, frogs are no joke. There was a problem in Korea. They got hungry. There was famine going on. So we sent them a bunch of rabbits, and the rabbits got out of control. And so we sent them a bunch of snakes to take care of so we sent them frogs to help fill in the gap when they had to kill off the rabbits because they got out of control. We sent them frogs because they reproduce rapidly and you can eat them. They were these big bullfrogs, right? Big meaty bullfrogs, delicious frog legs to be fried, et cetera, et cetera. The frog species got out of control, went invasive. And so we sent them snakes to eat the frogs. You remember what happened, Mario?
No, I don't.
The bullfrogs ate the snakes.
Oh.
The big ass bullfrogs ate it's how I learned the word for devour. Chabamogota. Right? To grab and consume. To grab. Chabamogota. There's a similar problem in Hawaii. They brought in mongoose to get the snake population under control. The mongoose got out of control, so they brought in cats to hunt the mongoose. And now Hawaii has a huge problem with out of control feral cat colonies all over the place.
Yeah, that's true. And Hawaii has the stupidest the native birds, like the native fauna of Hawaii are some of the stupidest animals you've ever seen. All right, we're talking like dodo bird tier. All right, these are birds. These are birds that basically can't fly and just wander around pecking at the ground. They're chickens essentially. Okay, they won't even get out of the way for a car. They don't. Nothing in their evolutionary experience has prepared them for contact with humans. All right, they're oblivious to the fact that the large four-limbed beast in front of you is dangerous. So it's incredible. So yeah, cats can just run amok and slaughter everything. So because cats like to murder. Because cats are
we are way off. We are way off the topic.
It's Taco Tuesday. Talk about whatever we want.
That's right. We can talk about whatever we want. So Donald Trump is going to visit Alligator Alcatraz today for the grand opening of the swampy Everglades Detention Center for Illegal Aliens. I've got this article from Fox News. President Donald Trump led to Florida Tuesday for the official opening of an immigration detention camp in the Everglades that is surrounded by alligators, aptly dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said Monday, I absolutely love that Donald Trump is going to visit Alligator Alcatraz on Taco Tuesday. I mean, yo.
golf clap.
We need to pave a highway through it that you start on one side of Florida and turn Alligator Alcatraz into just one giant all-you-can-eat taco bar manned by the hostile foreign immigrants, right? And it's just, that's it. Bring in the raw ingredients, make them farm their own shit and produce excellent street tacos. Just, little something to solve the national deficit. So we have the President of the United States coming down tomorrow to tout what Florida has done, DeSantis said at a Monday news conference according to the Miami Herald. I think by tomorrow it will be open for business, he added. DeSantis authorized construction of an illegal immigrant detention center on a 30-square-mile property in the Everglades swamplands of Miami-Dade County under an emergency order. The property is a former airport that has been outfitted with sturdy tent structures to house 5,000 illegal immigrants amid the Trump administration's deportation blitz to remove the millions of illegal immigrants who flooded the nation during the Biden administration. And you know what? I like the idea of this being just like, this is your layover, right? It's the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport of illegal immigration. You got to go? You got to go? Well, you just route them all from all over the country, right down to Florida. And you know what? We've had all these problems with the countries of origin for many of these hostile foreign invaders refusing to accept them back, like Venezuela refusing to take back their dangerous criminals that they always to come here.
They always do. You just threaten to cut off the money. Okay, if there's one good thing about paying allowances to all these other countries is that we can control them to some degree. You're like, oh, you're not getting your monthly check. You're not getting your monthly welfare check. Do what I say.
I think we should. I think we should just buy a shitload of dirt cheap parachutes and drop them on Cuba.
Is there something on my shoulder, Sergeant Major? Yeah. It's called a pinched nerve. It's called. Yeah. So. I mean. It's an airport right there. I mean, so you can in theory just fly them from anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
Consider it like Gitmo Light. You know what I mean? But it's on U.S. soil. Now, what I would see is, what was I going to say? Mind is not functioning yet, because I just woke up. Think. I can't. I'm done.
Okay, we'll try again. So let's go to CNN and see what their hot take is. Alligator Alcatraz, what to know about Florida's new controversial migrant detention facility. Right? They got to get that. They got to stick that word in there. Controversial. It's not controversial. Okay. Controversial.
I know what I was going to say. What I was going to say, Chris, is that due to the recent SCOTUS decision, a lot of the executive orders that Trump basically signed day one, week one, of his second term, a lot of that stuff is finally being allowed to grow and breathe, because the restrictions were lifted. So there's hopefully there's more kinetic action in regards to the deportation operations. I can only hope. Going forward, because apparently Trump is the only president where literally everything he does has to be independently verified by the Supreme Court before it's even allowed. So,
and the Supreme Court, and I cannot stress enough what the Supreme Court said vis-a-vis the universal injunction question, is not just that these lower courts were abusing their authority. What they said was, there was never any such authority to begin with.
Yeah.
These people were acting entirely outside of the law at every juncture.
They were rebuked. Okay. So, yeah, it's a good thing. Hopefully it'll prevent the judicial activism going forward, but it won't. They'll
and what needs to happen is every judge that signed one of those orders needs to be removed and prosecuted. They committed crimes. Right? Getting outside your lane as it's defined by the Constitution as an elected or appointed government official is a crime.
Well, no, if you make a legal decision, okay, if you make a judge's order and it gets repealed, okay, by the Supreme Court, then what should happen is that your jurisdiction, all right, basically loses access to a higher court, to an appeal, all right, until you are removed from the bench. So it really it would put a big emphasis on like state legislatures to get rid of these people, all right, or for federal judges. Federal judges, that'd be fine because, like, okay, you emptied your magazine, okay, in attempts to prevent a legal executive action, and now you no longer have the ability. Now no one will listen to you. So you've effectively nullified your court by your decision. I think that would be fair.
Sergeant Major asks, can KGB, I think it's KBJ actually, but anyway, Dad asks, can Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson be removed? Yes, the justices on the Supreme Court can be removed through impeachment.
Would it be 66 votes in the 66 votes in the Senate?
Yeah.
Like, good luck with that. Yeah.
Those lower judges, though, let me ask you this, Mario. Consider, some of these universal injunctions were orders for Donald Trump to take specific actions to reacquire the hostile foreign invader and human trafficker, Abrego Garcia. Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Maryland ban.
Yeah. Lower court judges issued universal injunctions requiring the president to make foreign policy maneuvers. What would happen to you or I if we were to go and represent to another country that we were representing the United States with the authority to make foreign policy decisions and force actions based on our assertions? That's a Hatch Act violation. That's criminal action. That's what those judges did.
At best,
right? It's not just that they broke their oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. They were doing things that are explicitly forbidden them by the law. So yeah, those judges belong in jail. So deep in the marshy wetlands of the Florida Everglades, less than 50 miles west of President Donald Trump's resort in Miami, sits the largest battleground in his administration's immigration enforcement efforts, a makeshift detention facility dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. What's it called? The emotional manipulation language in there. The makeshift detention center. Latest battleground in the administration's immigration enforcement efforts. The only reason anything that Donald Trump does with regard to immigration is considered to be controversial is because you have an entire political party that is dedicated to importing the third world for no reason other than to shore up their own illegal voting base.
Look at New York City. Perfect example. Okay? New York City, the reason you're going to have a socialist big S, okay, communist little c, mayor in New York City is because of unrelenting waves of intentional immigration. Okay, and plus in New York City with I mean, can you imagine New York City voter security? Okay, it probably is done. If you can, anything that could be scarcely classified as hominid, okay, is voting in New York City, okay, or is having a ballot printed for it, okay, and submitted in its name. All right, absolutely. So that's and New York City, like demographically, has been destroyed. All right, whatever was left of it from the Friends and Seinfeld days, okay, of our youth, okay, was completely washed away by 20 million illegal aliens that were brought into this country under Joe Biden. So there is nothing left in New York City. If you are if you are an actual American, if you are still living there and you are not making plans to leave, then you're wrong. And honestly, you can't be helped at that point. You're like Cameron. All right, we can make an attractive offer to you. All right, we can lay everything out, make it logical. Okay, kind of explain to you how it's in your best interests, but you're just going to refuse at the end of the day. You're just recalcitrant for the sake of being recalcitrant. Can't help you. You're lost. All right, that's New York City.
Yeah. All right. What do you want to cover next, Mario? Or do you have anything else to say about Alcatraz?
It seems pretty simple. I mean, they're just going to dump them off there? So those big white tents. I know what those white tents are. Those are those big government pavilion tents, right?
Oh yeah,
the big white pavilion tents.
I've lived in those for months at a time.
Yeah. The ones where they can go in later and then like spray it with this foam that hardens up like concrete. It becomes a semi-permanent structure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's right.
That's where I began my love affair with Crocs, because I made the mistake of trying to get to the toilet or the showers in the Army issued black plastic flip flops, walking on the rocks, and nope.
Yep. Absolutely.
Had to upgrade to some Afghani made Crocs to make that walk.
Yeah. That I had that experience in Iraq several times. You know, you step outside and it's rocks and moon dust. You make it halfway to the lavatory connex, okay, and you pop in a flop mid stride. It's bad.
Yeah,
it's real bad. Okay.
Yep.
It could ruin a morning.
It can ruin a soldier. Those rocks are no joke. And we're not talking about pea gravel, guys. We're talking about rock, fist-sized rocks that are poured out like driveway gravel across miles and miles of fucking moon dust.
I'll tell a disgusting story for the audience's entertainment because it's Taco Tuesday. I'd have to walk like, I don't know, I don't know the exact distance, but I'm walking further. You're walking further than you would want to walk just to take a piss. Okay, so I started basically just going to the side of my my compartmentalized housing unit. All right, which is like a chunk of a connex converted into a shitty apartment. Okay, and I would just piss on the side of my chew. all right, in the same spot, like every single day. That was my P spot, okay? And one day, I just wasn't paying attention, and I walked past this, and I accidentally stepped on the spot where I had been peeing for months. All right, the crack, there was like a layer of cracked earth, an inch of cracked earth at the top of my pee spot. Okay, looking like Mojave Desert. You know what I mean? With like the
Right.
tectonic plates and shit, like all cracked. I stepped on it, and it gave way, and beneath was a layer of plasma, which was human waste and moon dust. All right, up to my ankle, my foot was trapped, and then the unlocked uric acid just hit me like in a sledgehammer to the face. I'm like, so I'm there. I'm stuck in a puddle of solidified piss. All right, my sense is being hammered. All right, it stunned me. Okay, and I lost the flop. That flop was gone. It's still there. All right. There's a flop buried in the desert in Iraq. A single flop.
It's been disintegrated by the uric acid by now. And now what's sitting there is just a brick of improvised plastique that's just waiting for an impact to detonate it.
That's right. Sergeant Major says making your own IED. That's right. Yeah, I should have got like one of those a tap or something to dip in it, and I could just collect the ammonia for explosive purposes.
Liberty Girl says Alligator Alcatraz for illegals and politicians. Liberty Girl, how about this one? The Trump's Justice Department issues directive to strip naturalized Americans of citizenship for criminal offenses. Right now, and the lefties are going to lose their shit and freak out about that. But
there's precedent. It's been done. There have been mass denaturalizations. In fact, I believe back when this country was based, was pre World War II. All right, right around the turn of the century, we actually sent back like 1,000 Indians because they went to court trying to claim that they were high caste Brahmins and they're therefore white. The Supreme Court shut that shit down and said you are not white and therefore you have no right to be in this country, and they were deported. It was beautiful.
But what they're really targeting there is we have people here who are naturalized citizens who were sent by cartels, by various organized criminal agencies, by various foreign intelligence interests, and they were sent here with technically clean backgrounds and went through, jumped through the hoops to get naturalized so that they can get access to certain levels of American authority and access, just the interior of the United States so that they can serve the larger criminal enterprise. And then, of course, you've got people like Mamdani, who is over here, foreign-born, child of foreign academicians, communist, about to potentially be the mayor of New York. Santa Steve mentions Chinese students, but we're not talking about the Chinese students are here on student visas, Uncle Steve. That's we're talking about people who have been naturalized, who have actually come here and gotten citizenship and then committed crimes. I'm all for it. I'm all for that. It's one thing to say that we're responsible for the care and feeding of American citizens who have fallen off the path, and we have to lock them up because they're criminals, and now we're on the hook for feeding them and giving them medical care while they're kept in prison for 5 years or 20 years or life in prison, et cetera, et cetera. But if you've got a foreign-born immigrant who was naturalized and then commits a heinous crime and is about to be locked up on my dime for the next 50, 60, 70 years, no, fuck that. Just send them back. Strip them their citizenship. Nope. You have lost. And Sergeant Major points out naturalization lets you vote. Yeah. And if you've been convicted of a crime, that's it. And I mean, a crime, right? I'm not talking about, a civil action like, oh, well, okay, you're a naturalized citizen. We caught you running a red light. Got to go back. I'm not ready to go quite that far. Not quite that far. But I would be very comfortable with denaturalizing people for any crime where there's legitimate intent to cause harm,
Okay,
malice of forethought.
How about this? Any crime where there's like a victim, where there's harm. You know what I mean? Like your definition of crime is like it must inflict harm. I think you've said on several occasions. So
well, I mean, the first thing you learn and the first thing that they teach you when you go to law school is crime is harm. Right. If there's no victim, there's no crime. Yeah, now, that's not actually how the law works, but that is the theory of the law.
If your actions harm a U.S. citizen, that's immediate grounds for deportation. Okay, that's what Japan does. Okay, yep. No, you cause some injury, whether physical or financial, to a Japanese citizen, you're out of the country, and we're gonna put you in like a dog kennel for a few weeks before we do it.
So, Mario, you mentioned earlier that the new Supreme Court decision on universal injunctions is going to kind of take the chains off. One of the things, and we've talked about it on the show, and we've complained a bit about it. I don't think we've been as vocal and agitated in our complaints about the slow walk, but there have been a lot of complaints who are like, hey, Trump, we voted for you. We got you back in office. Doge showed us that there's all this fraud, waste, and abuse going on. When are we going to see some arrests? Now, we're still in the first half of the first year, right? He's only been there for a few months. And throughout that whole period, there have been all these radical activist judges using an illegitimate authority to get in and interfere with the activities of the president and slow his shit down. That's been a legitimate problem. Those universal injunctions having a stop been put to them by the Supreme Court, we're going to see some floodgates open. Like we were just talking about Alligator Alcatraz, and now, I don't know if you guys have seen this news. If you're not familiar with the Vigilant Fox on X, he's a great one for these threads where they cover, where they get the news out.
Here, can I comment on the deportations real quick?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So now that the Supreme Court's made its decision, hopefully this will unblock some of the hurdles. Some of the problem is right now is yes, deporting people. Okay, it sounds simple, but because of bureaucracy, all right, we make it more difficult than it has to be. Okay, there are legal hurdles that have to be crossed. And then there are basically through lack of personnel, or just lack of flights taking the people out of the country, or the fact that the can't get like a proper budget for ICE because it's all locked up in the big beautiful bill, which is being slowly like massacred, mutilated, and basically transmogrified by the Congress. Okay, so because of all that, there are bottlenecks in the process, which is why things move so slowly. All right, so hopefully some of these intentional bottlenecks can be basically broken free, and we can start seeing a significant movement of people out of this country. But I'm not going to hold my breath. David Mathey says, and up here in Pennsylvania, we've had a rash of Middle Eastern-owned vape tobacco shops and Chinese massage places. That's not just Pennsylvania, David. That's the whole country, no. Right? These people, they come here. Okay, look here. You want to look into something? Look up.
Yeah, this will be worth a deep dive. The way the
Business Association.
Yes.
Okay, the way the Small Business Association operates, basically giving grants and preferential loans to people who just showed up in the country and don't even speak the language. Okay, that happens. Someone fresh off the boat or off the plane, all right, has access to more capital than you do. Okay, understand that, and that has been going on for generations. Okay, and it feeds into the chain migration. It's like a self-perpetuating machine at this point. Small Business Association. There was actually talk of it during the height of the Doge activity in the first few weeks of this administration, but with the fallout with Musk, okay, that's all. I don't. It's up in the air at this point. I don't know.
Yeah,
and Congress right now is bit by bit cutting back, okay, all those recommendations that Doge made, all right, and all the cuts that were made by executive fiat due to the recommendations of Doge. Okay, so Congress right now is trying to make it as if Doge never happened. Okay, as if Doge was never a thing.
Correct. The entire Congress, the entire Republican body of Congress right now is failing. And it's becoming more and more difficult to make an argument that they're doing a bad job, not on purpose. It's becoming more and more difficult not to argue that what's happening here is that they are intentionally turning on the American people and the voters that put them in office and causing them harm because that's what they want to do.
The big beautiful bill was already kind of a bitter pill, all right, for MAGA to have to swallow.
Yes.
Okay? But at a minimum, at least it actually outlined, it paid for the implementation of MAGA itself. Okay, so at least you had that silver lining. Okay, but now, basically every other bill that started out as a good idea, it goes through Congress and then it's got to be percolated. Okay, through 50 gallons of raw sewage. All right, and what comes out on the other end is a janitorial disaster, and then we're told basically clean it up. So. Yeah, it's whatever good was in that spending bill is being ruined.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And hold on just a second. I'm doing a thing real quick. There we go. That's done. And let me pull back over to the presentation. So, like I was saying, the Vigilant Fox. We've been saying, hey, what the hell's going on? Why, where are the address? Where are the arrests, rather? And turns out, here are the arrests. They're starting to happen now. It was the single biggest healthcare fraud bust in Department of Justice history. Trump's administration is actually fighting back against the criminals who loot our system and steal your tax dollars. And you won't believe who the DOJ says is behind it all. They're not even from the America. So you've got right here.
My name is Matthew Gagliotti, and I'm the head of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. Thank you all for joining us today as we announce the largest coordinated healthcare fraud takedown in the history of the Department of Justice. Today marks a decisive moment in our fight to protect American taxpayers from fraudsters and to defend the integrity of America's healthcare system. We are announcing today charges against 324 defendants for their alleged participation in healthcare fraud schemes involving approximately $14.6 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs. My name is Matthew Gagliotti, and
so they're talking about charges for 324 people, and these are transnational crimes, right? So what they're finding is that basically, and this goes back. What, Mario?
I want to know what group of immigrants was doing that. Okay, it's either it's either going to be Chinese, Indian, or maybe it's probably Chinese or Indian.
Chinese, Indian, Pakistani, and
or Arab or Muslim. Okay, and Chinese, Indian, or Muslim,
and Russians.
Russians just do the anchor baby thing in Miami.
No, I'm not speculating. I'm not speculating. It's
it was Russians?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the DOJ says these aren't just small-time scams, and the perpetrators are not even American. They've been tracking transnational criminal organizations exploiting American healthcare systems on a massive scale. Russian and Pakistani fraudsters were among those accused of literally siphoning money from American taxpayers. laid out the alarming details. We're seeing a disturbing trend of transnational criminal organizations engaging in increasingly sophisticated and complex criminal schemes that defraud the American healthcare system. As part of the takedown, we've identified and charged defendants operating in Russia, Eastern Europe, Pakistan, and other foreign countries. These individuals have infiltrated our healthcare system to steal American taxpayer dollars. Basically, what they're doing is they're representing themselves as various types of medical equipment providers, billing the government for medical equipment, right? CPAP machines, oxygen tanks, wheelchairs, and then they're billing the government for that equipment, and the equipment never exists. It's never even manufactured, let alone delivered. They're issuing the bill, and the thing about the government, it's kind of like when you're a grown ass adult, you go into a grocery store and you just buy a birthday cake, right? Nobody checks. They don't care. One of the things that Doge found a lot of, and this is actually something that happens to a lot of bigger businesses, and and even smaller businesses, if you're not paying close attention, you'll do business with a contractor, right? And maybe the deal you make is it's going to be $100,000 for a project, and the project's going to take 6 months, right? And so they say, so we're going to break the $100,000 up over the 6 months, and we're just going to do it around, about $18,000 a month. You'll pay monthly, and basically they send an invoice to your. So the person who makes the deal, makes the decision to start that project, is not the same person that receives the invoice and pays the invoice. So some of these, some shady companies, they'll just keep sending the invoice. You get through the 6 month project's done. We shouldn't be getting paid anymore. But you know what? Let's just send them one more invoice and see if they pay it. Oh shit, they paid us an extra invoice. Let's send them another one. Right? The government has billions of dollars leaving our pockets that are being paid to contractors who signed on to do temporary projects and just kept billing the government in perpetuity.
Yeah, I do remember that scandal coming up during the Doge cycle. Okay, in the first few months of this administration, where it was uncovered that the Treasury was paying out billions, okay, like tens of billions of dollars in fraudulent claims, just because the machine is running on autopilot, essentially.
Right. Okay?
No one goes in, no one curates anything, no one verifies it, no one audits shit. Okay, it's just a spending machine, and we don't know who's on the other end. But I guarantee there's more coordination in getting that free, unaccountable money than there is in restricting and auditing it on the other end. So, yeah, that's what the United States is. It's a giant piñata. Just beat it and get your candy.
Yeah, and so basically what we're talking about here, what these guys have done, to make matters worse, these perpetrators used the stolen identities of more than 1 million Americans spanning all 50 states to perpetrate this scheme and submit these false claims. So another thing you got to understand, if you're somebody who's on, and you may not even be on like Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid, right? Disabled veteran with a CPAP, right? Somebody stealing my machine could just reorder filters for a CPAP machine or reorder the face mask or whatever to be delivered, and then it never gets delivered. It just gets paid for. Right. So, that other bit there, that it never gets delivered. Right. So you've got Americans out there who have a legitimate claim, right? They're legitimately disabled. Maybe they were hurt bad at work, disabled veteran, right? For whatever reason, they have a legitimate claim to the benefit program that's made available to them. And then some Russian, some Paki has stolen their identity. And all of a sudden, they're filing these claims and your medical equipment's not arriving. That's a big deal, guys. That's a big deal. So yeah, there's a good case, because I guarantee you there are some of these involved. there's a good case for the denaturalization of naturalized foreign citizens, foreigners who have been naturalized. Okay, yeah, you get wrapped up in this scheme, and I guarantee you, just like they did for Abrego Garcia, who was a human trafficker, right? A flesh merchant, a slave trader.
Wait, who?
On top of being a hostile foreign immigrant. Huh?
Who?
Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Oh,
the
yeah,
Maryland
he
man,
was a human trafficker.
the Maryland
yes,
dad.
That's correct.
Right? The Democrats will bend over to lick their own assholes to try and keep that trash in our country.
Yeah.
And that includes the kind of people committing these crimes.
There was even a Maryland senator who went down to El Salvador and personally filleted him on camera, right, on behalf of the American public.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
So I got one more thing I want to cover, and I'm hoping Mario hasn't seen this yet, because I really want to get your fresh take here, Mario. I'm just going to play it for you.
Steps up ICE raids and mass deportations. One tech developer is pushing back with an app designed to track ICE activity in real time. It's called ICE Block, and it's controversial to say the least. Senator Claire Duffy is with us now. How does this work, Claire, and what are the legal implications?
Yeah, John, I talked with Joshua Aaron.
So CNN is just straight up promoting an app to dox ICE agents.
Is that treason? Is that
no,
treason?
It's not. It's not
obstruction.
Treason.
Is it obstruction?
It's obstruction. It's probably obstruction of federal procedure.
Yeah.
I don't think it quite rises to treason.
So you could at least be charged with what the J6ers were charged with.
Correct.
At a minimum. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know that charge that the J6ers were charged with, and the Supreme Court came in and said, no, you can't charge them with that.
You interrupted official proceedings. This is a class C felony or some shit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Charge him with that.
Yep. And I mean, that's I don't know what else to say about it except for maybe
Aaron, who was the.
Let me see I'm sharing it from Libs of TikTok. I think it was Brandon Herrera, the AK guy, said, you know what, guys, I'm going to download this app and make false ICE reports just to make sure that all the lines I get in are shorter. Honestly, I'm tempted to download the app and use it to try and if I can catch ICE agents having just finished a raid and maybe get some of them on camera and hand out MAGA hats or white hats. BFM stick. Hey, you just run up and put BFM stickers on ICE agents. Hey, you fucking guys. Be Controversial points out the left interrupts official proceedings on a weekly basis. It's so normal they just escort them out of the building to come back and do it again later. So we're not going to get spun off on J6 today, but just a little perspective, a little reminder because it came up. The J6 guys, a bunch of them were charged with interrupting official proceedings, and that's something that the lefties do all the time. In fact, lefty celebrities do it often. And it's not treated. They don't call it an insurrection, right? It's beautiful and brave. It's brave and bold.
Yeah, one could say it is the primary tactic of the left at its core. Okay, is interrupt, interfere.
Correct. Right, and they're the BAMF guys.
So I guess I gotta wrap it up here in a minute or two.
Okay, then. Right? We'll close on this, and this is something we're going to come back to and talk about later. I mentioned earlier that one of the important things that we need to do, that needs to be taken into consideration, that the left uses these criminal aliens to affect elections. And Stephen Idgath Miller has just made statements that the White House is currently working on ways to exclude illegal aliens from the U.S. Census, per Stephen Miller, and that's going to be huge.
That fight should have had that fight in 2020. Too little, too late.
No,
we have another 10 year.
No, here's the thing, Mario. We did have that fight in 2020, and we lost it because we had a bunch of weak Republicans who said, "Yeah, okay, whatever. We'll just let it fly."
We still have a bunch of weak Republicans.
We do.
That did not improve at all.
No, I agree. But where I disagree is that it's too little, too late. It is the only maneuver, excluding illegals from the census, is the only maneuver that can save this country going forward.
With the mass lift of injunctions against the executive, all right. I want Stephen Miller to run amok. All right. Absolutely, absolutely attack in any way you can.
And then I don't have the other article pulled up, but as far as the removing illegals from the census, and then we're going to wrap this up. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is putting forward a bill to do that, to add the citizenship question to the census. And damn it, what?
Pelosi? What did you say?
No, Marjorie Taylor Greene is pushing for is putting forward the bill to add the citizenship question to the census. And shit, there was something else in that article, and I think I closed that article. But this is the last thing I wanted to share, and we'll call it a day. This brother right here saying something about
black men doing lawn services. In 1 week, I have seen in my city black men power washing parking lots, black men doing roofing work, black men doing lawn services around businesses in my city. Things are starting to look like the old days again. Black Man Thoughts 2.0, and I'm out. Peace.
So for the brothers out there that talk about the white man this, the white man that, y'all, the white men were the skilled tradesmen, and they had black helpers who were growing up to be skilled tradesmen. And around the time that the young black men grew up, having worked under a master electrician, a master plumber, a master mason, et cetera, and were getting ready to start their own businesses while the old white men were about to retire, illegal immigrants came in, undercut them, and that was one of the moves that the Democrats used to put the black men into essentially modern day wage slavery, as we discussed on the Saturday show a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah, that's what I've said in previous streams. Black heritage Americans should be 100% on board with deportations, okay, of immigrants, legal and otherwise. All right, they literally were taking your jobs. All right, what is a black job?
Exactly. They're not. They're not taking my job.
What is?
They're not taking Mario's job. No, brothers, they're taking your jobs.
You got to speak English level 4 to do my job. You got to speak.
Yeah.
Or cat 4 English speaker required.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be a cat. Well, cat 4 English, Mario. Cat English is the only cat 5 language. Oh no, Korean is the only cat 5 language.
You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you have to get a 4, okay, on the DLPT in English.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching today. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.